Elijah Rawlings hadn't held a child in 4 years, not since he buried his daughter in frozen ground. Now, a 7-year-old girl stood in his doorway, silent as death, clutching a rag doll while her brother bled out on his floor. "Please, sir," the boy gasped. "Hide my sister. They're coming." Eli looked at that little girl's eyes, old eyes, broken eyes, and something cracked open in his chest. He didn't reach for a hiding spot. He reached for his rifle. If you want to see how one man's stand changes everything, subscribe now and follow this story to the end. Drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The pounding came at midnight. Eli Rawlings sat alone at his table, same as every night for 4 years. Cold coffee, stale bread, the wind howling against the logs like it wanted inside. Wyoming winter didn't forgive, and Eli had stopped asking it to. He reached for his rifle before he reached for the door. Old habit. The war taught him that. 14 years since Appomattox, but some lessons stayed carved in a man's bones. He opened the door slow. The boy fell into him. 14, maybe 15. Face white as the snow behind him, blood spreading dark across his shoulder, soaking through a coat 3 sizes too big. "Please," the boy gasped. "Please, sir." Behind him stood a girl, 7 years old, maybe younger, dress torn, feet wrapped in rags. She didn't cry, didn't speak, just clutched a rag doll like it was the only real thing left in the world. Her eyes hit Eli like a bullet. He'd seen eyes like that before, on soldiers, on widows, on his own face in the mirror the day he buried Emma and little Sarah. Eyes that had seen too much. "Get inside." Eli pulled them in, kicked the door shut. "Both of you, now." The boy collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. "They're coming. Holloway's men. Please, you gotta hide her." Holloway. Eli's jaw tightened. Every rancher in 3 counties knew that name. Victor Holloway. Cattle baron. Owned the sheriff, half the judges, and enough hired guns to start his own war. What happened? Eli grabbed clean cloth from his shelf. "Talk while I work." He pressed the cloth to the boy's shoulder. The boy flinched, bit down on a scream. "My pa," the boy said through clenched teeth. "He had a deed. Legal deed. Land Holloway wanted." "Had Holloway killed him. Shot him dead 3 days back." The boy's voice cracked. "My sister saw it. Saw everything." Eli looked at the girl. She stood perfectly still watching him. Not scared exactly. Something worse than scared. Empty. "What's your name, son?" "Sam. Sam Caldwell. She's Grace. She don't talk no more. Not since she saw." "Yes, sir." Eli finished pressing the wound. The bleeding was slowing. Boy was lucky, bullet went clean through. Another inch left, he'd have bled out in the snow. "How'd you find me?" "Asked in town, quiet like. Someone said there was a man up here who don't answer to Holloway." Sam grabbed Eli's arm. "Please, sir, you gotta hide her. Attic, root cellar, anywhere. They'll kill her for what she's seen." Eli looked at Grace again. She was still watching him, still clutching that doll. Her lips moved slightly soundless, like she was praying. For a moment, just a moment, Eli saw another face. Sarah. His Sarah. 6 years old when the fever took her. Same brown hair. Same small hands. Same trust in her eyes that he'd failed to deserve. "I ain't hiding her." Sam's face went white. "Sir, you heard me. But they'll find her. Holloway's got 30 men, maybe more. He owns everything. Everyone. You can't—" "I said I ain't hiding her." Eli set a bowl of broth in front of Grace. She didn't touch it. Just watch the door like it might burst open any second. "If they come, they'll find her standing right here. And they'll have to go through me first." Sam stared at him. "That's suicide." "Maybe." "You don't even know us." "Don't need to." Eli moved to the window, checked the darkness outside. Nothing yet. But they'd come. Men like Holloway always did. 4 years ago, a man wanted my water rights. I tried to be smart about it. Sent my wife and daughter to town while I worked things out. He went quiet. His hand tightened on the rifle. What happened? Sam asked. Wagon accident. That's what they called it. Eli's voice was flat. Dead. Found them at the bottom of Miller's Ravine. My Emma. My Sarah. Hiding didn't save them. Made them easier targets. The fire crackled. The wind howled. Grace moved. Slow. Careful. She crossed the room and stood beside Eli, looking up at him with those ancient eyes. Then she did something that broke him. She reached up and touched his hand. Small fingers. Cold as ice. But steady. Eli's throat closed. He knelt down, met her eyes. You're safe here, little one. I promise you that. She didn't speak. Couldn't, maybe. But she nodded. Once. Slow. It was enough. Sam struggled to his feet, wincing. Mister, I appreciate what you're saying. I do. But you don't understand. Holloway don't just kill. He makes examples. Burns farms. Hangs men from their own porches. You stand against him, you die slow. Then I die slow. Why? Why would you do that for strangers? Eli looked at Grace. Looked at the rag doll in her arms. Looked at the small wooden cross he could see peeking from her collar. Because I buried my daughter 4 years ago, he said quietly. And I've been dead ever since. This is the first thing that's made me feel alive. Sam opened his mouth, closed it. Something shifted in his face, not understanding exactly, but recognition. You really ain't scared. Terrified. Eli stood. But scared don't mean weak. Just means you're human. He moved to the window, lit the lantern, set it on the sill. The flame flickered gold against the darkness. Sam stared. What are you doing? Telling them where we are. That's crazy. That's a message. Eli turned. Holloway's power comes from fear. People hide. People run. People look away. That's how men like him win. He loaded the rifle 1 shell at a time. The sound was loud in the quiet cabin. Not tonight. Not with her. Grace was watching the lantern. Something flickered across her face. Not hope, not yet. But maybe the shadow of it. Sam sat down heavily, the fight draining out of him. Ma used to say the same thing. Stand for something or fall for everything. Smart woman. She's dead too. Fever. 2 years back. Sam's voice was thick. Grace stopped talking after that. Then Pa died and we ran and I thought... He broke off, wiping his eyes with his good arm. I thought we were gonna die in the snow. You're not dying tonight. Eli handed him a blanket. Get some rest. I'll keep watch. You need sleep too. Sleep's overrated. Eli settled into his chair by the window, rifle across his lap. Been doing without for 4 years. 1 more night won't kill me. Sam wrapped himself in the blanket, eased onto the floor. Grace stayed by the fire, still watching Eli with those silent eyes. After a while she moved. Picked up a piece of charcoal from the hearth. Found an old newspaper on the floor. Started drawing. Eli watched her work, not interrupting. Her hands moved careful, deliberate, like this was the only language she had left. When she finished, she held it up. A cabin. Snow falling. A man standing in front, rifle raised. 2 small figures behind him. And above it all, a single star. Eli's eyes burned. That's real pretty, darling. His voice came out rough. Broken. Real pretty. Grace looked at her drawing. Then at him. Then she did something she hadn't done in 2 years. She smiled. Just a flicker. There and gone. But real. Eli turned away so she wouldn't see him, wipe his eyes. Outside, the wolves howled. The wind screamed. The snow kept falling. But inside, for the first time in 4 years, The cabin didn't feel like a tomb. Morning came gray and cold. Eli hadn't slept. Hadn't even tried. Just sat by the window, watching the darkness, turn to light rifle ready. Sam woke first, groaning, as he moved his injured shoulder. They didn't come. Not yet. They're scouting, figuring odds. Eli poured coffee, handed him a cup. Holloway's careful. He'll want to know what he's dealing with before he moves. And what is he dealing with? Old man with a rifle and nothing left to lose. Eli almost smiled. Most dangerous thing in the territory. Grace, stirred by the fire, sat up slowly. Her eyes found Eli's face, and she relaxed visibly, like a held breath finally released. "Hungry, little one?" She nodded. Eli found bread cheese, the last of his dried apples. Set it in front of her. She ate slowly, watching him the whole time. "She likes you." Sam sounded surprised. "Don't know why." "I do." Sam accepted more coffee, wincing as he moved. "You treat her like a person. Most folks look at her and see a burden, a problem. You look at her and see her." Eli didn't answer, just checked his rifle again. "What's the plan?" Sam asked. "Wait them out." "Can't wait forever. We need supplies and we need help." "Help?" Sam laughed bitterly. "Who's gonna help us against Holloway, the sheriff, the judge? They're all bought and paid for." "Not everyone." Eli pulled on his coat. "There's a woman in town. Abigail Dunn, runs the general store. She was my Emma's friend. If anyone knows who might stand with us, it's her. And if she won't help, then we're no worse off than we are now." Sam struggled to his feet. "I'm coming with you. You can barely stand." "Grace needs me." "Grace needs you alive." Eli pushed him back down. "Stay here. Bar the door. Don't open it for anyone but me." "How will I know it's you?" Eli thought. "I'll knock 3 times, then 2, then 3 again. 3, 2, 3. Got it." Eli moved toward the door, then stopped. Grace was standing in front of him, blocking his path. Her small face was tight with fear. "I'll come back," Eli said gently. "Promise." She reached up, grabbed his hand, held it tight. "Promise," he said again. She let go, stepped back, but her eyes never left his face. Eli rode out into the cold, the snow crunching under his horse's hooves. The town was 3 miles west, a hard ride in winter. He kept his rifle ready, scanning the tree line. They were out there. Holloway's men. Watching. Waiting. Let them watch. The town of Coldwater had seen better days. Half the buildings were boarded up. The ones still open looked tired, beaten down like dogs that had been kicked too many times. Holloway's brand was everywhere, burned into hitching posts, painted on signs, a reminder of who really owned this place. Eli tied his horse outside Dunn's general store, stepped inside. The bell above the door jingled. A woman behind the counter looked up, 65 if she was a day, steel gray hair pulled back, tight eyes that had seen everything and forgotten nothing. "Elijah Rawlings." Her voice was flat. "Ain't seen you in 4 years." "Abigail. Heard you became a hermit up there on that ridge. Thought maybe you'd died." "Thought about it." Eli moved to the counter. "I need your help." Abigail's eyes narrowed. "My help, man who disappeared after his wife died. Man who wouldn't even come to her memorial because he was too busy feeling sorry for himself." "I deserve that." "Damn right you do." But something in her face softened, just slightly. "What kind of help?" Eli told her. "All of it. The children, Holloway, the murder, what he planned to do." Abigail listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "You're going to die." "Probably." "Holloway'll burn your place to the ground." "Probably." "You're a damn fool, Elijah Rawlings." "Probably that too." Abigail studied him. Her eyes were hard as flint, but underneath something flickered. Something like respect. Emma would have done the same thing, you know. Taken those children in, stood her ground. I know. That why you're doing it? Guilt. Maybe some. Eli met her eyes. But mostly because that little girl looked at me, and I saw Sarah. Saw what I couldn't save 4 years ago. I ain't making that mistake twice. Abigail was quiet. Then she nodded slowly. There's a preacher, Thomas Finch. He's buried too many of Holloway's victims. He might stand. She thought. Caleb Stone, the blacksmith. Good man, strong. He don't love Holloway neither. Anyone else? Maybe. I'll ask around. Quiet like. Abigail fixed him with a hard stare. But you listen to me, Eli. You're poking a rattlesnake. Holloway won't just come for you. He'll come for anyone who helps you. You understand that? I understand. And you're doing it anyway. Yes, ma'am. Abigail almost smiled. Damn fool. She reached under the counter, pulled out a box of ammunition. On the house. Lord knows you're gonna need it. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you're still breathing come spring. Eli took the ammunition, turned to leave. Eli. Abigail's voice stopped him. That little girl. The one who don't talk. What's her name? Grace. Something passed across Abigail's face. Pain. Memory. Recognition. That was my mother's name, she said quietly. Grace. She didn't talk much neither. But when she did, it was always worth hearing. Eli nodded, didn't trust himself to speak. He rode back through the snow, the box of ammunition heavy in his saddlebag. Halfway home, he saw them. 4 riders on the ridge, watching. Holloway's men. Eli didn't run, didn't hide, just kept riding slow and steady, like he had all the time in the world. Let them see. Let them report back. Let them tell Holloway that the old man on the ridge wasn't afraid. He knocked on his own door. 323. Sam opened it, rifle ready, and the relief on his face was almost painful. You came back. Said I would. Grace appeared behind Sam. She looked at Eli, then at the ammunition box, then back at his face. A question in her eyes. We're getting help, Eli told her. Folks in town. They're gonna stand with us. Grace's eyes widened. She grabbed Eli's hand, held it tight. But for now, we wait. We prepare. And we don't back down. Sam nodded slowly. What do we do first? Eli looked around his cabin. 4 years of dust and neglect and waiting to die. First, he said, we make this place worth defending. They worked through the day. Sam, despite his wound, helped where he could, boarding windows, stacking supplies, clearing firing lines. Grace carried water-swept floors, kept the fire burning. Small tasks, but each one mattered. Each one said, I belong here. By evening, the cabin looked different. Not just fortified, lived in. Grace's drawings hung on the walls. Sam's blanket was folded neat on a bed Eli had built years ago for a daughter who never slept in it. They ate supper together. Simple food, beans, cornbread, weak coffee. But Grace ate without watching the door. Sam laughed at something Eli said, then looked surprised that he could still laugh. And Eli felt something crack open in his chest, something he thought had frozen solid 4 years ago. Mr. Rawlings, Sam asked. Just Eli. Eli. Sam hesitated. Why didn't you give up after your wife? Your daughter. Why didn't you just quit? Eli was quiet for a long time. I wanted to, he admitted. Every day for 4 years. Put a bullet in my head and be done with it. What stopped you? Eli looked at Grace. She was watching him, listening, even if she couldn't respond. I don't know, he said honestly. Cowardice maybe. Or stubbornness, or some fool notion that maybe I was being kept alive for a reason. He paused. Maybe this is the reason. Maybe you two are why I'm still breathing." Grace moved, crossed the room, climbed onto the bench beside Eli, and leaned against his arm. She didn't speak, but she didn't have to. Sam's eyes were wet. "My pa used to say God works in mysterious ways. Your pa was a wise man. He was just a farmer." Sam's voice broke. "Just a farmer who wanted to keep his land, and they killed him for it. He was more than that." Eli put his hand on Sam's good shoulder. He raised 2 children who survived 3 days in winter, who found help, who didn't give up. That takes more than farming. That takes heart. Sam wiped his eyes. "What happens now?" "Now we wait. We get strong. And when they come, and they will come, we stand." "And if we lose?" Eli looked at Grace, at Sam, at the drawings on the wall and the fire burning bright. "Then we lose standing," he said. "That's all any man can do. Stand for something. Die for something. That's what makes a life worth living." Outside, the wolves howled. The wind screamed. Somewhere in the darkness, Holloway's men watched and waited. But inside the cabin, 3 broken people had found each other, and for the first time in years, none of them felt alone. The night stretched long. Sam fell asleep by the fire, exhausted from blood loss and fear. Grace curled up on the bed, the rag doll pressed to her chest. Eli kept watch, same as always, same as every night for 4 years. But tonight was different. Tonight, he wasn't watching for death. He was watching for life. Toward dawn, he heard it. Hoofbeats. Multiple riders. Coming fast from the east. Eli stood, checked his rifle, moved to the window. 6 men crested the ridge. Holloway's brand on their saddles. Moving slow now, deliberate, spreading out as they approached. Eli didn't hide, didn't run, just stepped onto the porch, rifle in hand, and waited. The lead rider dismounted. Big man. Scar running from temple to jaw. Eyes that had seen too much and felt too little. "Mr. Rawlings?" The man's voice was polite, almost friendly. "Name's Marcus Cole. I work for Mr. Holloway." "I know who you work for." "Good. Then you know why I'm here." Marcus glanced at the window. Grace's face appeared briefly, then vanished. He smiled, cold, professional. "We're looking for 2 children. Runaways. Thieves. Mr. Holloway wants them returned." "No thieves here. Just guests." "That little girl is wanted for questioning. Legal matter. She's a witness to an incident." "She's a child under my roof." Eli's voice was steady. "That makes her my responsibility." Marcus was quiet for a moment, studying Eli like a man studies a horse before buying it. "Mr. Holloway is prepared to be generous. $500. That's more money than this whole ridge is worth. Just hand over the children. Walk away clean." "Some things ain't for sale." "Everything's for sale. That's just how the world works." "Maybe your world." Eli stepped forward, rifle ready. "Not mine." Marcus's eyes flickered something like respect or recognition. "You're making a mistake, old man. Holloway's got 30 men, judges, the sheriff. You've got nothing." "I've got something worth fighting for." Eli didn't blink. "That's more than your boss can say." Marcus was quiet. Then he laughed short, sharp, without humor. "I like you, Mr. Rawlings. I do. You remind me of someone I used to know." He mounted his horse, looked down at Eli. "But liking you won't stop what's coming, Mr. Holloway doesn't take no for an answer. Never has, never will." "Then he's going to learn something new." Marcus stared at him for a long moment. Something flickered across his face. Doubt, maybe. Or memory. Hard to tell. 3 days, he said finally. "That's how long you've got. After that, Mr. Holloway comes himself. And he won't be making offers. Tell him I'll be waiting." Marcus nodded once. Something almost like sadness in his eyes. "God help you, Mr. Rawlings." "God helps those who help themselves." The riders turned, kicked up snow, disappeared over the ridge. Eli watched them go. Only when they were out of sight did he lower the rifle. Behind him, the door opened. Sam stood there, pale but steady. Grace beside him, her hand in his. "What do we do now?" Sam asked. Eli looked at the sunrise, gold and red spreading across the snow like fire. "Now," he said, "we get ready. 3 days isn't much time, but it's enough." Grace stepped forward, took Eli's hand. Her fingers were cold, but her grip was sure. And in her eyes, for the first time, Eli saw something that made his throat close. Hope. Not much, just a flicker, but real, and worth dying for. 3 days. Eli didn't waste a single hour. By noon, he had Sam dressed in his warmest clothes, Grace bundled in a blanket so thick she could barely move. They rode toward town together, the cold biting through every layer. "You sure about this?" Sam asked. "Bringing her out in the open. Safer with us than alone in that cabin." Eli kept his eyes on the tree line. "Besides, she needs to see something." "See what?" "That she ain't alone. That people will stand for her." Grace sat between them, her small body pressed against Eli's side. She hadn't spoken since yesterday, not a word, not a sound. But her eyes were alive, watching everything. They found Abigail waiting outside her store. She wasn't alone. A man stood beside her, tall, broad-shouldered, arms like tree trunks. His skin was dark, his eyes darker, and when he saw Eli, he didn't smile. "Elijah Rawlings." The man's voice was deep as a well. "Heard you're picking a fight with Victor Holloway." "Caleb Stone." Eli dismounted, helped Grace down. "Heard you don't much care for him neither." "Don't much care for any man who thinks he owns people." Caleb's eyes moved to Grace. Something shifted in his face. "This, her, the witness. This is Grace." Caleb knelt down, slow and careful, until he was eye level with the little girl. His massive hands rested on his knees. "Hello, Miss Grace." His voice was gentle now, soft. "I hear you're a brave young lady." Grace stared at him, didn't move, didn't blink. Then she reached out and touched his hand, just once, light as a breath. Caleb's eyes went wet. He looked up at Eli. "I'm in." Just like that. Just like that. Caleb stood. "My mama was a slave. She told me stories about men like Holloway, men who think power means they can take whatever they want. She also told me about the ones who stood against them." He put his hand on Eli's shoulder. "I'll stand with you." Abigail stepped forward. "That makes 3 of us, 4 counting the boy. We need more." Eli looked around the empty street. "Holloway's got 30 men." "I know someone." Abigail's voice dropped. "Reverend Finch. He's buried 6 of Holloway's victims this year alone. 6. He'll want justice." "A preacher with a gun. You'd be surprised." Abigail turned. "Follow me." The church sat at the edge of town, small, weather-beaten. The cross on top leaned slightly like it was tired of standing straight. Inside, a man knelt at the altar, 45, maybe 50, thin, gray at the temples. His hands were pressed together, his lips moving in silent prayer. "Reverend Finch." The man looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed, exhausted. "Mrs. Dunn, Mr. Rawlings." He stood slowly. "I wondered when you'd come. You know why we're here." "Everyone knows." Finch walked toward them, his footsteps echoing in the empty church. "The whole town's talking about the man on the ridge who told Holloway no. Will you help us?" Finch was quiet. His eyes moved to Grace standing half-hidden behind Eli's leg. "I've prayed about this," he said finally. "Prayed for guidance, for courage, for some sign of what God wants me to do. And I keep thinking about David and Goliath." Finch's voice was steady now, certain. David didn't wait for God to kill the giant. He picked up a stone and did it himself. He moved to a closet, opened it. Inside hung a rifle, old but well maintained. Sometimes God helps those who help themselves. Eli felt something loosen in his chest. "You'll stand with us?" "I'll do more than stand." Finch took the rifle, checked the chamber. "I'll fight. I've buried too many innocent people, Mr. Rawlings. Too many children. Too many widows. If there's a chance to stop it, I'm taking it." Grace moved, crossed the church, stood in front of the Reverend. She reached up and touched the cross around his neck. Her fingers traced the shape, careful and reverent. Finch's eyes filled with tears. He knelt before her. "You're safe now, child. God sees you, and so do we." Grace looked at him for a long moment. Then she did something that stopped everyone's breath. She hugged him, arms around his neck, face pressed to his shoulder, holding on like she'd never let go. Finch held her back, tears streaming down his face. "I've got you. We've all got you." Sam wiped his eyes. That's the most she's touched anyone since Pa died. Eli's throat was too tight to speak. They gathered at Abigail's store, 4 adults, 2 children. Not enough to fight 30 men, but it was a start. "We need a plan," Caleb said. "Holloway won't come gentle. He'll come hard and fast, try to overwhelm us before we can react." "He won't burn us out," Eli said. "Not with witnesses, not with the Reverend there. He needs to make it look legitimate." "So what's he gonna do?" "Siege." Eli spread a rough map on the counter. "Surround us, cut us off, wait until we're starving, freezing, desperate, then offer us a deal we can't refuse. And if we refuse anyway, then he kills us and calls it self-defense." Sam's face went pale. "That's not fair." "Fair's got nothing to do with it, son. This is about power, about showing everyone in the territory what happens when you say no to Victor Holloway." Abigail leaned forward. "Then we need to make sure he can't surround us. We need more people, more guns, more eyes." "Who else is there?" "The Miller brothers. Lost their ranch to Holloway 2 years back. They're working as hands now, but they hate him. Will they risk it? For a chance to hit back, they might." "Anyone else?" Caleb spoke up. "Doc Harrison. He patched up 3 men. Holloway's thugs beat half to death. He's got no love for that family." "A doctor's not a fighter." "No, but he can keep us alive if things go bad." Caleb's jaw tightened. "And they will go bad. We all know that." Silence fell over the group. The weight of what they were doing pressed down on everyone. Grace tugged Eli's sleeve. He looked down. She was holding up a piece of paper. Another drawing. This one showed people, stick figures, simple but clear, standing in a circle, holding hands. In the middle of the circle, 2 small figures, a boy and a girl, protected. Eli's eyes burned. He knelt beside her. "That's right, darling. That's exactly what we're doing." She pointed to the drawing, then to each person in the room. Matching faces to figures. "She understands," Sam said quietly. "She knows what you're all risking for us." "It ain't just for you." Eli stood still, holding the drawing. "It's for everyone Holloway's hurt. Everyone he's killed. Everyone he's stolen from." He looked at each face in turn. "This is bigger than 2 children. This is about whether men like Holloway get to own the world or not." Finch nodded slowly. "Amen to that." "So." Eli folded the map. "We've got 2 days. Let's use them." They split up. Abigail went to find the Miller brothers. Caleb headed for Doc Harrison. Finch would spread the word quietly through his congregation, anyone who'd lost someone to Holloway, anyone who wanted justice. Eli took Sam and Grace back to the cabin. The ride was quiet, but not empty. Something had changed. Something had grown. "Eli." Sam's voice was hesitant. "Can I ask you something?" "Ask." "Do you think we're gonna die?" Eli was quiet for a long moment. The snow crunched under the horses' hooves. The wind bit at their faces. "Maybe." he said finally. Probably even. Holloway's got more men, more guns, more money. By all rights, we shouldn't stand a chance. Then why do it? Because some things matter more than surviving. Eli looked at Grace. She was watching him, listening. Your pa knew that. He could have sold that land, could have walked away, but he didn't because that land was his right, his legacy for you and your sister. And they killed him for it. They killed him for standing up, for being a man instead of a dog. Eli's voice hardened. That's worth something. That's worth everything. Sam was quiet. Then, I want to be like him. Like Pa. Like you. You already are, son. Eli put his hand on Sam's good shoulder. You got your sister out. Kept her safe for 3 days in winter. Found help when there wasn't any. That's not a boy. That's a man. Sam's eyes glistened. He didn't speak. Didn't need to. Grace leaned against Eli's side. Her small hand found his and held tight. They rode on through the cold. That night they came. Not Holloway's men, the others. First the Miller brothers, Jacob and Thomas. Big, raw-boned men with anger in their eyes and rifles on their backs. Heard you're making a stand, Jacob said. We want in. Holloway took everything from us, Thomas added. Our land, our cattle, our future. We've been waiting 3 years for a chance to hit back. Eli shook their hands. Glad to have you. Then Doc Harrison, smaller than Eli expected. Quiet, but his bag was full of bandages and medicine, and his eyes were steady. I can't shoot worth a damn, he admitted. But I can keep men alive, and that's something. That's everything, Eli said. Thank you. By midnight, there were 9 of them. 9 against 30. Still not enough, but closer. They sat around Eli's table planning, arguing, compromising. Grace fell asleep in the corner, her head on Sam's lap, the rag doll clutched to her chest. We can't fight them head on, Caleb said. They'll slaughter us. Then we don't fight head on. Eli tapped the map. We make them come to us. Defensive positions. Fallback points. Force them to fight for every inch. They'll just burn us out. Not if we've got water stored. Not if we've got witnesses. Eli looked at Finch. You're our insurance reverend. Holloway can't kill a preacher without consequences, not even him. I'm willing to be more than insurance, Finch said quietly. I'm willing to pull a trigger if it comes to that. Let's hope it doesn't. Jacob Miller leaned forward. What about the law? Real law, not that bought sheriff. There's a federal marshal, Abigail said. Jonas Hartwell. He's been sniffing around Holloway for years. Never had enough evidence to move. We've got evidence. Sam spoke up, his voice stronger now. I've got my pa's deed. Grace saw the murder. That's eyewitness testimony. From a child who doesn't speak. She spoke once. Eli's voice was firm. She'll speak again, when it matters. Everyone looked at Grace. She was still sleeping, but her face was peaceful. Trusting. How do we get word to the marshal? Thomas asked. I'll ride out at dawn. Abigail's voice was steady. He's working out of Cheyenne. 2 days hard ride. That's cutting it close. It's all we've got. Eli nodded slowly. Then we make it work. We hold for 3 days. 4, if we have to. We give the marshal time to arrive. And if he doesn't, then we die on our feet. Eli looked around the table. Anyone want out, now's the time. No shame in it. This isn't your fight. No one moved. No one spoke. Caleb broke the silence. It's all our fight. Always has been. Amen, Finch said. The Miller brothers nodded. Doc Harrison squared his shoulders. Abigail set her jaw. Sam looked at Eli with something like wonder. I've never seen anything like this. Like what? People choosing to stand. Choosing to risk everything for strangers. You're not strangers. Eli's voice was rough. Not anymore. Grace stirred in her sleep. Her lips moved soundless, but for just a moment, Eli could have sworn she smiled. Dawn came cold and gray. Abigail left first, riding hard toward Cheyenne. She didn't say goodbye, just nodded once at Eli and disappeared into the snow. The others spread out. Jacob and Thomas took positions in the tree line. Doc Harrison set up a medical station in the cabin's back room. Finch helped Caleb reinforce the doors. Eli worked alongside them, nailing boards, checking sight lines, testing escape routes. His body ached. He wasn't a young man anymore, but the pain felt good. Purposeful. Sam appeared at his elbow. "What can I do?" "How's that shoulder?" "Hurts like hell, but I can shoot left-handed." "Good. Take the loft. You've got the best eyes here, use them. Anything moves out there, you let us know." Sam climbed up, rifle in hand. His face was pale, but determined. Eli watched him go. That boy had aged 10 years in a week. Life did that, sometimes burned away the child, and left something harder behind. Grace was helping in her own way. She carried water, sorted ammunition, kept the fire burning. Each task small but vital. Each one saying, "I belong here." Around noon, she brought Eli a cup of coffee, handed it to him without a word. "Thank you, darling." She stood there looking up at him. Something in her eyes he couldn't quite read. "What is it?" She reached into her pocket, pulled out a small wooden cross, the one she'd been clutching since the night she arrived. She pressed it into Eli's hand. "Grace, I can't take this." She shook her head, closed his fingers around it. Her eyes were fierce now, insistent. Eli's throat closed. He understood. She was giving him her most precious thing, her protection, her faith, because she trusted him to use it better than she could. "I'll keep it safe," he managed. "Promise." She nodded once, satisfied, then went back to work. Eli looked at the cross in his palm, worn smooth from years of holding, stained with tears and fear and hope. He hung it around his neck, tucked it inside his shirt, against his heart. The afternoon passed in tense silence. Everyone watched the ridges. Everyone waited. They came at sunset. Not 30 men. Not yet. Just 6 riders silhouetted against the dying light. Marcus Cole at the front. Eli stepped onto the porch alone. His rifle was inside. This wasn't that kind of visit. Not yet. Marcus dismounted slowly. His face was unreadable. "Mr. Rawlings." "Cole. I see you've made friends." Marcus gestured at the fortified cabin, the shapes moving in the windows. "Impressive. Didn't think you'd come alone." "I'm not here to fight. Not today." Marcus stepped closer. His voice dropped. "I'm here to give you one last chance." "My answer hasn't changed." "I know." Something flickered in Marcus's eyes. "That's not what I mean." Eli waited. "Holloway's planning something." Marcus's voice was barely a whisper now. "Something big. He's not just going to attack your cabin, he's going to make an example. Burn the town. Kill anyone who helped you. Men, women." He hesitated. "Children." Eli's blood went cold. "You're lying." "I wish I was." Marcus looked away. "I've done things for that man. Things I can't take back. But this is different. This is massacre." "Why are you telling me?" "Because that little girl looks at me and I see myself." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I was orphaned at 7. Nobody helped me. Nobody stood for me. I survived by becoming what they wanted me to be, a killer, a monster." His voice cracked. "But she doesn't have to. She's got you." Eli studied his face, looking for the lie, the trap. He found neither. "What do you want?" "I want out." Marcus's hands clenched at his sides. I want to stop being the thing I hate. I want—" He stopped, swallowed hard. "I want to be able to look in a mirror again." "And you think helping us will do that?" "I think it's a start." Silence stretched between them. Behind Eli, he could feel the others watching, waiting. "If you're lying," Eli said slowly, "if this is a trick, I will kill you myself. Slowly. I know. And if you're telling the truth, you're signing your own death warrant. Holloway will hunt you forever." "I know that too." Eli made his decision. "Come inside." Marcus hesitated. "Your people won't trust me." "No, but they'll trust my judgment." Eli turned. "And I trust that look in your eyes. I've seen it before." "Where?" "In my own mirror. 4 years ago." They walked inside together. The reaction was immediate. Caleb reached for his gun. Jacob Miller swore. Sam raised his rifle from the loft. "Easy." Eli raised his hand. "He's here to help." "Help?" Caleb's voice was ice. "This is Holloway's dog. He's killed more people than I can count. And now he wants to stop." "You believe that?" "I believe everyone deserves one chance at redemption." Eli looked at Marcus. "Just one. Don't waste it." Marcus nodded. His face was pale but steady. "I have information," he said. "Holloway's plans, his positions, his weaknesses. I know everything about how he operates." "And you're just giving it to us?" "I'm giving it to her." Marcus looked at Grace. She was standing by the fire watching him with those ancient eyes. "She deserves a chance, a life. Something better than running and hiding." Grace stared at him for a long moment. Everyone held their breath. Then she walked forward, slow, deliberate. She stopped in front of Marcus, looking up at him, and she held out her hand. Marcus stared at it. His eyes went wet. "I don't deserve. Take it." Eli's voice was soft. "She's offering forgiveness. Don't insult her by refusing." Marcus reached down, took Grace's small hand in his massive one. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "For all of it." Grace squeezed his hand once, then let go, and walked back to the fire. Something broke in the room. The tension didn't disappear, but it shifted, changed. "All right," Caleb's voice was grudging. "Tell us what you know." They planned through the night. Marcus drew maps, explained positions, revealed weaknesses they never would have found alone. By dawn they were ready. Holloway would come with 30 men. They had 12 now, counting Marcus. Still outgunned, still outmanned. But they had something Holloway didn't. They had purpose. They had each other. And they had a little girl who hadn't spoken in 2 years, but whose silence spoke louder than any words. Grace sat by the window as the sun rose. She was drawing again another picture. This one showed a dark figure falling while light figures stood tall. She held it up for Eli to see. "That's the plan," he said softly. "Exactly right." She smiled. Just a flicker, there and gone. But it was enough. It was everything. Outside, the snow began to fall again, heavy and white and endless, covering tracks, hiding secrets, making the world clean. Eli checked his rifle one last time. Tomorrow, Holloway would come, and they would be waiting. Holloway came with the dawn. 23 men. Marcus had counted them twice through Eli's field glass. 23 guns against 12. The math was ugly, but the position was good. "They're spreading out," Sam called from the loft. "Circling wide. Let them." Eli checked his rifle. "They want to surround us. That's fine. Means they're spread thin." Marcus stood by the window, his face tight. "Holloway's not with them." "What?" "He's not there. I know every man he's got. These are hired guns. Ranch hands. The dangerous ones are missing." Eli's stomach dropped. "Where?" "I don't know, But if he's not here, he's planning something else. Caleb swore. The town. He's going for the town. We don't know that. Think about it. Caleb's voice was urgent. He burns cold water while we're pinned here, kills everyone who helped us, sends a message, then comes back with fresh men to finish us off. Eli's mind raced. If Caleb was right, everything they'd built was for nothing. The people who'd stood with them would die for their courage. I have to go. Eli grabbed his coat. You can't leave. Jacob Miller blocked his path. We need you here. You need me to save the town. You're one man. I'm one man who started this. Eli's voice was steel. Those people are dying because of me, because I asked them to stand. Eli. Marcus stepped forward. I'll go. Everyone stared at him. You. Caleb's voice dripped suspicion. How do we know you won't just ride back to Holloway? You don't. Marcus met his eyes without flinching. But I know the men. I know where they'll hit first, and I know how to stop them. Why should we trust you? Because that little girl held my hand. Marcus looked at Grace. She was watching him calm and steady. Because she forgave me when she had no reason to. I'm not going to let her down. Eli studied his face. The old instincts, the ones that had kept him alive through war and loss, told him Marcus was telling the truth. Go, he said. Warn the town. Get anyone who can fight to the church. It's the strongest building. Marcus nodded once. Hold them here. I'll be back. And if you're not? Then I died doing something right for once. He was gone before anyone could respond, riding hard into the gray morning. Caleb watched him go. I still don't trust him. You don't have to. Eli moved to the window. Just hold this cabin. That's all that matters now. The first shot came 20 minutes later. It punched through the window, spraying glass across the floor. Sam ducked, cursing. Doc Harrison pulled Grace down, covering her with his body. They're testing us, Eli said. Don't waste ammunition. Wait for a clear shot. More shots, splintering wood, the sharp crack of bullets hitting stone. Thomas Miller fired back from the side window. Got one. He's down. Good. Stay focused. The firing intensified. Eli counted muzzle flashes, 15, maybe 16 shooters now. They were closing in, using the snow and trees for cover. Sam, how many on the north side? 5, no 6. They're moving toward the barn. Caleb, take the Millers. Cover the barn. They're trying to flank us. Caleb nodded, already moving. The 3 men slipped out the back door low and fast. Eli kept his eyes on the front. 3 men were advancing, using the old well for cover. He waited. Patient. Let them come closer. One raised his head to aim. Eli fired. The man dropped. The other 2 scattered, running for better cover. Eli let them go. Ammunition was precious. Doc, how's Grace? Scared but safe. Harrison's voice was steady. She's holding up better than most adults would. She's been through worse. Eli reloaded. Haven't you, darling? Grace looked up at him from behind the overturned table. Her eyes were wide but not panicked. She nodded once. That's my girl! A burst of gunfire from the barn. Then Caleb's voice shouting. They're retreating, north side's clear. Small victory. But the main force was still out there, still pressing. Sam called down. Eli, something's wrong. What? They're pulling back, all of them. Eli moved to the window, risked a look. Sam was right. The attackers were withdrawing, melting back into the tree line. Why would they? Then he heard it. Horses. Lots of them. Coming fast from the east. Reinforcements. Jacob's voice was tight. No. Eli's blood went cold. That's the real attack. The rest was just to tire us out. 12 more riders appeared on the ridge. Fresh men, fresh guns. And at their head, mounted on a black stallion, was Victor Holloway himself. He stopped at the edge of rifle range, surveying the cabin like a king inspecting his domain. Mr. Rawlings. His voice carried across the snow. I believe it's time we talked. Nothing to talk about. I disagree. Holloway dismounted, walked forward with his hands visible. I'm coming in, alone. If your people shoot me, my men will burn that cabin to ash with everyone inside. If they don't, perhaps we can resolve this like civilized men. Eli looked at the others. Caleb shook his head. Jacob's finger tightened on his trigger. Let him come, Finch said quietly. Hear what he has to say. He's a murderer. Yes. But murder in cold blood makes us no better than him. Finch met Eli's eyes. We stand for something. Remember. Eli remembered. Hold your fire, he called. Let him approach. Holloway walked toward the cabin, slow and deliberate. His silver beard was immaculate. His coat worth more than everything Eli owned. He looked like a senator. A gentleman. He looked like exactly what he was, a predator in fine clothing. Eli met him on the porch, face to face for the first time. Mr. Rawlings? Holloway smiled. I've heard so much about you. Wish I could say the same. Wit, I appreciate that. Holloway glanced at the fortified cabin, the armed men at every window. Impressive defense. You've done well with limited resources. Get to the point. The point. Holloway's smile faded. The point is that you've caused me significant inconvenience. My men are dead. My reputation is damaged. My operations are disrupted. Sounds like a you problem. It was. Now it's yours. Holloway stepped closer. I'm going to make you an offer, Mr. Rawlings. One time only. After this, there are no more negotiations. I'm listening. Walk away. Take the boy if you want him. I have no use for him. But give me the girl. She's the only witness to an unfortunate incident. Without her testimony, there's no case. Everyone goes home. And if I refuse, then everyone dies. Holloway's voice didn't change. Same calm, reasonable tone. Not just you and your friends. Everyone. The woman who rode to Cheyenne. The preacher, the blacksmith, their families, their neighbors. Anyone who ever spoke a kind word about you. He paused. I will salt the earth, Mr. Rawlings. I will make an example so terrible that no one in this territory will ever say no to me again. Eli felt the others watching, felt the weight of their lives pressing down on him. You'd kill innocent people. Women, children. I'd do what's necessary. Holloway's eyes were empty, cold as the snow beneath their feet. I didn't build an empire by being squeamish. I built it by being thorough. You're a monster. I'm a businessman. Monsters are unpredictable. I'm entirely predictable. I do what I say I'll do. Always. He leaned closer. Give me the girl, or I'll give you a massacre. That's the only choice you have. Eli's hand tightened on his rifle. Every instinct screamed at him to pull the trigger to end this man right here, right now. But then Holloway's men would attack, and everyone would die. I need time, he heard himself say, to talk to the others. 5 minutes. Holloway stepped back. After that, I start burning. He walked back to his men, calm as a Sunday stroll. Eli went inside. His hands were shaking. You're not actually considering it. Caleb's voice was sharp. I'm considering everything. We can't give her up. Sam stepped forward, face flushed. She's my sister, the only family I have left. I know. Then tell him no. Tell him to go to hell. And watch everyone die. Eli looked around the room. The Millers, Doc Harrison, Reverend Finch, you, all of you dead, because I was too stubborn to make a deal. It's not a deal. Finch's voice was quiet. It's a sacrifice, and not yours to make. Then whose? Grace moved. No one had noticed her standing there, small and silent, watching everything. She walked to Eli, looked up at him with those eyes that had seen too much. Then, she did something she hadn't done in 2 years. She spoke. I'll go." The words were rusty, barely audible, but they hit like thunder. Sam grabbed her. "No! No, Grace, you can't! He'll kill everyone." Her voice was stronger now, clearer. "I won't let people die for me. Grace, please." Mama said to be brave. Tears streamed down her face, but her voice didn't waver. "Papa said to stand for what's right. This is right." Eli knelt before her. His heart was breaking. "Grace, darling, look at me." She looked. Your mama and papa were right. Being brave, standing for what's right, those are the most important things in the world. He took her hands. "But you know what else they'd say?" "What?" "They'd say that standing for what's right doesn't mean dying for what's wrong." He squeezed her fingers. "Holloway isn't right. He's evil. And giving in to evil doesn't end it, it feeds it." "But the people chose to stand, just like your papa did, just like you're doing now." Eli's voice cracked. "You speaking up just now after 2 years of silence, that's the bravest thing I've ever seen. That's your parents living through you." Grace stared at him, tears falling, hands trembling. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Me too." Eli pulled her close. "But we're going to be scared together. All of us. And whatever happens, you will never stand alone again." She buried her face in his shoulder. Her small body shook with sobs. Sam knelt beside them, wrapping his arms around both. "We stay together, no matter what." Eli looked up. Everyone was watching. Caleb, the Millers, Doc Harrison, Reverend Finch. "You heard her," Eli said. "She found her voice. She chose to stand. Are we going to do any less?" Caleb nodded slowly. "To hell with Holloway." "Amen," Finch said. The Millers raised their rifles. Doc Harrison squared his shoulders. "Then we fight." Eli stood Grace still in his arms. "We fight for every second. We fight until we can't fight anymore. And when it's over, we meet our makers knowing we didn't bend." "What about the town?" Sam asked. "What about Marcus?" As if in answer, a sound drifted across the snow, distant but distinct. A church bell. Ringing and ringing and ringing. Eli ran to the window. On the ridge behind Holloway's men, he could see its smoke rising from Coldwater. "God, no." Jacob's face went white. But then they heard something else. Gunfire. Not from the town, from the woods to the west. Rapid, sustained, purposeful. Holloway heard it too. He spun, shouting orders. His men scrambled, confused. A rider burst from the tree line. Marcus Cole, blood streaming from his face, riding like the devil was behind him. Behind him came more riders. 10, 15, 20. Townspeople, shopkeepers, farmers, armed with rifles, pistols, pitchforks, anything they could find. And at their head, riding a gray mare, was Abigail Dunn. Eli couldn't believe it. She was supposed to go to Cheyenne. She did. Finch was smiling through his tears. But she came back. Holloway's men were caught between two forces now. They tried to regroup, but the townspeople hit them hard, scattering their formation. "Now!" Eli kicked open the door. "Everyone out! Support the attack!" They poured from the cabin, firing as they ran. Holloway's men fell back, overwhelmed by the sudden assault from both sides. Eli found himself face to face with a young gun hand, barely 20, terror in his eyes. "Drop it," Eli said. The kid dropped his rifle. Ran. Eli let him go. No point killing boys. The battle was brief and brutal. Holloway's hired guns, faced with real resistance, lost their appetite for fighting. One by one they surrendered or fled. But Holloway himself was still mounted, still armed, and he was riding straight for the cabin, straight for Grace. "No." Sam raised his rifle, but his injured shoulder betrayed him. The shot went wide. Holloway didn't stop. His face was twisted with rage, the mask finally slipping. If I can't have her, no one will. He raised his pistol. Eli was too far, too slow. He watched in horror as Holloway aimed at the cabin door where Grace was standing with Doc Harrison. Then Marcus was there. He came from nowhere, throwing himself between Holloway and the cabin. The pistol fired. Marcus jerked. Blood sprayed across the snow. But he didn't fall. He grabbed Holloway's arm, dragged him from his horse. They hit the ground together, struggling. "You traitor!" Holloway screamed. "I made you. I gave you everything. You made me a monster." Marcus's voice was fading, but his grip held firm. "I'm taking it back." Eli reached them. He pulled Holloway off Marcus, slammed him against the ground, put his rifle to the man's head. "It's over," he said. Holloway laughed, blood on his teeth, madness in his eyes. "It's never over. I have judges, lawyers. I'll be out in a week, and then I'll come back. I'll kill everyone you love." "No." A new voice, strong and clear. Eli looked up. Grace was standing there, small and fierce and unafraid. "No," she said again. "You won't." She walked toward Holloway. Everyone watched. "I saw you." Her voice didn't waver. "I saw you kill that man. I'll tell everyone, every judge, every jury, every person who'll listen. I'll tell them what you did." Holloway stared at her. For the first time, fear flickered in his eyes. "They won't believe a child." "They'll believe me." Grace stepped closer. "Because I'm not afraid of you anymore. You're just a man. A small, scared man who hurts people because he doesn't know how to be anything else. You little... I feel sorry for you." Grace's voice was steady. "You have all that money, all that power, and you're still empty. You'll always be empty." She turned away from him, walked to Eli, took his hand. "Can we go home now?" Eli's throat closed. He nodded, unable to speak. "This isn't over," Holloway screamed. "I'll destroy you. I'll destroy all of you." "Someone shut him up," Abigail said, dismounting. Caleb was happy to oblige. One punch and Holloway was unconscious. They gathered Marcus. His breathing was shallow, the wound in his stomach bleeding badly. Doc Harrison went to work immediately. "Is he gonna die?" Sam asked. "Not if I can help it." Harrison's hands moved fast and sure. "Someone get me clean water, now!" Grace knelt beside Marcus. She took his hand. "Hold on," she whispered. "Please hold on." Marcus opened his eyes, looked at her. Did I do good?" "You did good." Grace was crying. "You did so good." He smiled. Then his eyes closed. The next hours blurred together. Holloway's men who hadn't fled were rounded up. The townspeople shared food, water, ammunition. Stories were exchanged how Abigail had found them on the road to Cheyenne, how Marcus had warned them just in time, how they'd grabbed every weapon they could find and ridden to help. "We couldn't let you fight alone," Abigail told Eli. "Not after you taught us how to stand." "I didn't teach you anything." "You taught us everything." She put her hand on his arm. "You reminded us what we'd forgotten, that we're stronger together than we are afraid." Reverend Finch led a prayer. Even the non-believers bowed their heads. Then, as the sun began to set, they heard it. Horses, moving fast, coming from the east. Everyone grabbed weapons, braced for another attack. But it wasn't Holloway's men. It was the federal marshal. Jonas Hartwell rode at the head of 5 deputized men. He surveyed the scene, the bodies, the prisoners, the exhausted defenders with grim satisfaction. "Looks like I'm late to the party." "Better late than never." Eli lowered his rifle. "How'd you know?" "Mrs. Dunn found me on the road, told me everything." Hartwell dismounted. "I've been building a case against Holloway for 2 years. Never had enough evidence to move. He looked at Grace. I hear you can change that. Grace stepped forward, small but steady. I saw him kill a man, she said. I'll tell you everything. Hartwell knelt before her. That's very brave, miss. You sure you're ready? I've been ready for 2 years. Grace's voice was strong. I was just waiting for someone to listen. Hartwell smiled. Well, little lady, I'm listening now. They took Holloway into custody. His men, too. The marshal promised a fair trial, a real one, in a federal court away from Holloway's bought judges. He'll hang, Hartwell said quietly to Eli. Not just for the murder, for all of it. The fraud, the intimidation, the lives he's ruined. This is over. Is it? Eli looked at the cabin, at the bullet holes and broken windows. Seems like it's just beginning. Rebuilding's always harder than destroying. Hartwell put his hand on Eli's shoulder. But you've got help now, a whole town's worth. Marcus survived, barely. Doc Harrison worked through the night, and by morning the bleeding had stopped. He'd live, though he'd carry the scar forever. Grace sat by his bed holding his hand. You saved me, she said. You saved yourself. Marcus's voice was weak but clear. I just got in the way of a bullet. That's not true. Okay, maybe it's a little true. He tried to smile. But you know what, it was worth it. First good thing I've done in 20 years. It won't be the last. He looked at her. Really looked. No, he said softly. I reckon it won't. That night they gathered in Eli's cabin. All of them. Crowded together shoulder to shoulder, sharing what little food and warmth they had. Sam sat beside Eli Grace in his lap. She was asleep, exhausted from the day, but her face was peaceful. Eli. Sam's voice was quiet. Yeah. I never thanked you properly. For taking us in. For standing for us. For everything. Nothing to thank me for. There's everything to thank you for. Sam's eyes glistened. We were gonna die in that snow. Nobody else would have helped us. Nobody else even tried. Eli looked at Grace's sleeping face, at Sam's earnest eyes, at the people crowded around his table, people who'd risked everything for 2 children they'd never met. I didn't save you, he said finally. You saved me. What? I was dead. Sam. 4 years dead. Walking around, breathing, eating, but dead inside. Then you 2 knocked on my door, and something woke up. His voice cracked. You gave me a reason to live again. That's worth more than anything I could ever give you. Sam didn't speak, just leaned against Eli's shoulder. Abigail caught Eli's eye from across the room. She raised her cup in silent salute. Eli nodded back. The fire crackled. The wind howled. The snow kept falling. But inside, for the first time in 4 years, the cabin was full of life. And Eli Rawlings, who'd forgotten how to hope, was finally learning again. The nightmares came that first night. Eli woke to screaming. Grace's screaming. He was at her bedside before his eyes were fully open, gathering her small body into his arms. It's okay. It's okay, darling. You're safe. He was there. Grace's voice was raw, broken. He was standing over me with that gun, and he's locked up. He can't hurt you anymore. But I keep seeing it. She clung to him, trembling. Every time I close my eyes, I see Papa falling. I see the blood. I see his face. Eli held her tighter. He knew those dreams. He'd had them for 4 years. I know, sweetheart. I know. Sam appeared in the doorway, his face pale with worry. Is she okay? She will be. Eli stroked Grace's hair. We all will be. It just takes time. How much time? Eli thought about Emma, about Sarah, about the hole in his chest that still ached every day. As much as it takes. Grace's breathing slowly steadied. She didn't let go of Eli's shirt. Will you stay? she whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." He held her until she fell asleep again. Then he kept holding her, watching the fire burn low, listening to her breathe. Marshal Hartwell came at dawn. "We're moving Holloway to Cheyenne today," he said. "Federal court. Judge Morrison's handling the case. He's clean. Can't be bought." "When's the trial?" 2 weeks, maybe 3. Hartwell's face was grim. "The girl needs to testify. You know that." "She's 7 years old." "I know. But without her testimony, Holloway's lawyers will tear the case apart. The deed, Marcus's word, it's all circumstantial, without an eyewitness." Eli looked back at the cabin where Grace was finally sleeping peacefully. "She's been through enough. She's been through hell, and I'm sorry for that. But if she doesn't testify, Holloway walks. And if he walks, he comes back. For her, for you, for everyone." Eli's jaw tightened. He knew Hartwell was right, hated him for being right. "I'll talk to her. Talk gentle." Hartwell mounted his horse. "That child's carrying more weight than most adults could bear. Don't add to it." "I wouldn't." "I know. That's why I'm trusting you with this." The marshal rode away, his deputies following with Holloway's men in chains. Holloway himself was in a wagon, bound, gagged, and still somehow managing to look arrogant. He caught Eli's eye as the wagon passed. The hatred there was pure and cold. This wasn't over. Not until the rope was around that man's neck. Grace took the news better than Eli expected. "I'll do it," she said. "I'll tell them what I saw." "You sure it's going to be hard? Lawyers asking questions, trying to confuse you? Holloway staring at you the whole time." "I know." Grace's small hands curled into fists. "But if I don't, he wins, and I won't let him win." Sam put his arm around her. "We'll be right there, the whole time. Promise, promise." Eli knelt before her. "Grace, I need you to understand something. Whatever happens in that courtroom, whatever they say to you, you've already won." "What do you mean?" "You survived. You spoke. You stood up when it mattered." He touched her cheek. "Nothing they do can take that away." Grace's eyes welled up, but she didn't cry. She was learning to be strong, maybe too fast. "I won't let Papa down," she whispered. "You couldn't if you tried." The days before the trial were tense. Marcus recovered slowly, strong enough to sit up by the 3rd day. Grace visited him every morning, bringing him whatever breakfast Eli had made. "You don't have to do this," Marcus said one morning, looking at the plate of eggs and bacon she'd brought. "I want to." "Why? After everything I did." "You changed." Grace sat on the edge of his bed. "That's what matters. You changed when it counted." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. His eyes were wet. "I used to be like you know. When I was little. Before Holloway found me." He stared at the ceiling. "I used to believe in things, good things. Then he taught me that believing was weakness, that caring got you killed. He was wrong." "Yeah." Marcus looked at her. "He was wrong about a lot of things, but mostly about that." Grace took his hand. "Will you testify too, if they'll let me? Got a lot to say about Victor Holloway." His jaw tightened. "Things that'll make sure he never hurts anyone again." "Like what?" "Like the names of every man he killed, every family he destroyed, every life he ruined for money." Marcus's voice hardened. "I kept records, in my head, every one of them. I thought maybe someday I'd need to remember." "Why?" "Because someone should. Someone should know their names." Grace was quiet. Then she leaned forward and hugged him, careful of his wound. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For remembering." Holloway's lawyer arrived in Coldwater 3 days before the trial. His name was Cornelius Webb. Tall, thin, expensive suit, eyes like a snake. He found Eli at the general store buying supplies for the trip to Cheyenne. "Mr. Rawlings, a word." Eli didn't stop loading his wagon. "Nothing to say to you." "Then perhaps you'll listen." Webb stepped closer, lowering his voice. "My client has authorized me to make a final offer. $50,000. Cash. For you and the children to disappear. Start fresh somewhere. California. Oregon. Anywhere you like." "Not interested." "That's more money than you'll see in 10 lifetimes. And Grace's father. Is that how much his life was worth?" Webb's smile didn't waver. Mr. Caldwell was a stubborn man. Refused reasonable offers, forced my client's hand. Your client murdered him in cold blood. That's one interpretation. Eli turned, faced Webb directly. Here's another interpretation. Your client is a killer, a thief and a coward. He's going to hang, and you're going to watch. Confident words. I'm a confident man. Webb's smile finally cracked. You're making a mistake, Mr. Rawlings. My client has resources you can't imagine. Friends in high places. If he decides to what? Eli stepped forward. Webb stepped back. He's in chains. His men are scattered. His empire is crumbling. What exactly is he going to decide? The girl. Webb's voice dropped. Accidents happen. Witnesses disappear. It would be tragic, of course, but... Eli grabbed him by the collar, slammed him against the storefront. If you threaten that child again, Eli said quietly, I will kill you. Right here. Right now. And no one in this town will say a word. You're assaulting me. No. I'm explaining something. Eli leaned closer. Grace Caldwell is under my protection. She will testify, she will tell the truth, and your client will pay for what he did. He released Webb, who stumbled backward, straightening his coat with shaking hands. This isn't over, Webb hissed. You keep saying that, but it is. You just don't know it yet. Webb retreated to his horse, riding away without looking back. Abigail appeared beside Eli. What did he want? To buy us off, scare us off, take your pick. Did it work? Eli looked at the supplies in his wagon, at the cabin on the ridge, at the town that had stood with him when it mattered. What do you think? Abigail smiled. I think that man just made the biggest mistake of his life. They left for Cheyenne the next morning. The whole town came to see them off. Caleb, the Millers, Reverend Finch, Doc Harrison, farmers, shopkeepers, women, children, everyone who'd stood with them, everyone who'd been touched by what happened. Abigail hugged Grace tight. You be brave, little one. We're all rooting for you. I will. Caleb shook Eli's hand. You need anything, you send word. We'll come running. I know you will. Reverend Finch pressed a Bible into Grace's hands. The Lord is with you, child. Never doubt it. Grace held the Bible close. I won't. They climbed into the wagon, Eli, Sam, Grace, and Marcus, who was well enough to travel but still weak. Hartwell's deputies rode escort, keeping watch for any last-minute trouble. As they crested the ridge, Grace looked back at the cabin, at the town, at the life they'd built in just a few short weeks. We'll come back, Eli said. I promise. I know. Grace turned forward. But first, we finish this. Cheyenne was bigger than anything Grace had ever seen. People everywhere. Buildings taller than trees. Noise and movement and chaos. She gripped Eli's hand tight. It's okay, he said. Stay close. I'm not scared. I know you're not. He squeezed her fingers. But stay close anyway. They found lodging at a boarding house near the courthouse. Simple rooms, clean beds. Grace shared with Sam. Eli took the room next door. That night Grace couldn't sleep. Eli found her sitting by the window, staring at the street below. Thinking about tomorrow. Thinking about Papa. Eli sat beside her. What about him? I keep wondering what he'd say. If he knew I was going to stand up in front of all those people and talk about how he died. What do you think he'd say? Grace was quiet for a long moment. I think he'd say he was proud of me. Even if I was scared. Even if my voice shook. He'd say being brave isn't about not being scared. It's about doing what's right, even when you are scared. Sounds like a wise man. He was. Grace's voice cracked. He was the best papa in the whole world, and Holloway took him from us for nothing. For a piece of paper. Eli put his arm around her. He didn't die for nothing, Grace. He died standing up. He died protecting you and your brother. That's not nothing. That's everything. I miss him so much. I know, sweetheart. I know. They sat together in the darkness, watching the city that never quite slept. Eli. Yeah. After this is over, what happens? What do you mean? To me and Sam. Do we go to an orphanage? Get sent to relatives we don't know? Her voice trembled. I don't want to leave. I don't want to go somewhere else. Eli's chest tightened. He'd been thinking about this, worrying about it, but he'd been afraid to say anything. Would you want to stay with me? Grace looked up at him, hope and fear warring in her eyes. Really? If you'd have me. I'm not much old man with a rundown cabin and too many ghosts, but I'd take care of you, both of you. I'd keep you safe. Like a family. Like a family. Grace threw her arms around his neck. Yes. Yes, please. That's all I want. Eli held her tight. His eyes burned. Then that's what we'll do. After the trial, we'll make it official. You, me, and Sam. A family. Promise? Promise. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. I can do this now. I can do anything now. You always could, darling. You just needed someone to believe in you. The courthouse was packed, every seat filled. People standing along the walls. More waiting outside, desperate for news. Victor Holloway sat at the defense table, his chains hidden beneath the table. He looked different now, older, smaller, without his expensive coat and silver-handled cane. But his eyes were the same, cold and calculating. They found Eli in the crowd, held his gaze for a long moment. Eli didn't look away. Grace sat in the witness room waiting to be called. Sam was with her, holding her hand. You remember what to do, Sam asked. Tell the truth. Just tell the truth. And if they try to confuse you, take a breath, think, then answer. And if Holloway stares at you, Grace's jaw set. I stare back. Sam hugged her. You're the bravest person I know. I learned from you. The door opened. A bailiff appeared. Miss Caldwell, they're ready for you. Grace stood, smoothed her dress, took a deep breath. I'm ready too. The courtroom fell silent when she entered. Every eye followed her as she walked to the witness stand, so small against the massive chair, so young among all those adult faces. But she didn't falter, didn't hesitate. She climbed into the chair, sat up straight, and looked directly at the judge. State your name for the record. Grace Elizabeth Caldwell. And how old are you, Miss Caldwell? 7 years old, sir. A murmur ran through the crowd. 7 years old, carrying the weight of a murder case. Do you understand why you're here today? Yes, sir. I'm here to tell the truth about what I saw. And do you understand what it means to tell the truth? It means saying what really happened, not what I wish happened, not what someone else wants me to say, just the truth. The judge nodded. Very well. The prosecution may proceed. The prosecutor was a woman, middle-aged, kind face. She approached Grace gently. Miss Caldwell, can you tell us what happened on the night of November 15th? Grace closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, her voice was steady. My papa was in our cabin, working on papers, land papers. A man came to the door. Did you recognize this man? Not then. I know his name now. Grace pointed. Victor Holloway. Another murmur. Holloway's face didn't change. What happened when Mr. Holloway arrived? He told Papa to sell the land. Papa said no. The land was ours, legal and proper. He had papers to prove it. And then, Mr. Holloway got angry. Grace's voice wavered but held. He said Papa was making a mistake. Papa said the only mistake was letting a thief in his house. What happened next? Grace was quiet. Her hands gripped the arms of the chair. He shot him. The words came out small, broken. Mr. Holloway pulled out a gun and shot my papa. Right there in our kitchen. I was hiding behind the door. I saw everything. What did you do? I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. My voice wouldn't work, so I stayed quiet, and I watched my papa die. Tears streamed down her face now, but she didn't stop. His men came in after, took the papers. They didn't see me hiding. They left Papa on the floor and rode away. I stayed with him until Sam came home. I couldn't even tell Sam what happened. I couldn't say anything at all. Not for 2 years. And what made you speak again? Grace looked at Eli in the crowd. Her voice strengthened. A man who didn't hide me. A man who said I was worth standing for. He taught me that being scared doesn't mean being weak. And I decided I wasn't gonna let Holloway win by keeping me silent. The prosecutor nodded. Thank you, Miss Caldwell. No further questions. Webb rose slowly, his snake eyes fixed on Grace. Miss Caldwell, you say you saw my client shoot your father. I did. You were 7 years old at the time. Correct. I was 5. 5 years old. Hiding behind a door. At night. In poor lighting. I know what I saw. Do you? Webb circled closer. Children have active imaginations, Miss Caldwell. They see things that aren't there. Misremember. Confuse dreams with reality. I didn't imagine my papa's blood on the floor. Perhaps not. But could you have imagined who pulled the trigger? Could you have seen another man, any man, and convinced yourself it was Victor Holloway? No. You sound very certain. I am certain. Grace's voice rose. He stood in our kitchen under the lamp. I could see his face clear as day, his silver beard, his fancy coat, the ring on his finger with the red stone. I saw him. Webb hesitated. The ring detail, he hadn't expected that. You could have heard about these things later, filled in details from other sources. I haven't talked to anyone about what I saw. Not until now. Grace leaned forward. I remember everything about that night. The way the floorboards creaked when he walked. The way he smelled like tobacco and something sweet. The way he smiled when he pulled the trigger. Like he enjoyed it. Webb's face tightened. Your Honor, the witness is clearly. The witness is answering your questions, the judge said. Continue or step down. Webb tried a different approach. Miss Caldwell, isn't it true that your father owed money to several creditors, that he was in financial trouble? My papa worked hard for everything he had. That's not what I asked. Isn't it possible that your father's death was the result of a debt gone wrong, a dispute with someone else entirely? No. How can you be sure? Because I heard them talking before the shot. Grace's voice was steel now. Mr. Holloway said, sign the deed or I'll sign it with your blood. Papa said, this land belongs to my children. You'll have to kill me first. And Mr. Holloway said, if you insist. The courtroom erupted. The judge banged his gavel. Webb stood frozen. He hadn't known about the conversation. None of them had. Those were his exact words, the prosecutor asked. Exact words, Grace confirmed. I'll never forget them. Never. Webb retreated to his table. No further questions. The judge looked at Grace with something like respect. You may step down, Miss Caldwell. Grace climbed down from the chair, walked past the defense table, and stopped. She turned to face Holloway directly. You took my papa from me. she said quietly. You made me afraid of my own voice. You stole 2 years of my life. Her eyes didn't waver. But you didn't break me. And now everyone knows what you are. Holloway's mask finally cracked. Rage twisted his features. You little... That's enough. The judge's voice cut like a whip. Mr. Holloway, one more outburst and I'll have you gagged. Holloway subsided, but his eyes followed Grace all the way to her seat. Eli put his arm around her. You did good, darling. You did so good. I know. Grace was trembling but smiling. I finally told someone what happened, and they believed me. Marcus testified next. He named names, dates, places, every crime he'd witnessed, every order he'd followed. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he said. I did terrible things, but I'm done lying for Victor Holloway. I'm done pretending he's anything but what he is, a murderer and a thief. Other witnesses followed. Ranchers Holloway had cheated, widows whose husbands had died opposing him, a federal investigator who'd traced his fortune back to fraud and violence. By the time the defense rested, even Webb looked defeated. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Grace waited in the hallway, clutching Eli's hand. Sam paced back and forth. Marcus sat quietly staring at nothing. What if they don't believe me? Grace whispered. They believe you. What if they let him go? They won't. But what if... Grace. Eli knelt before her. You told the truth. That's all anyone can do. The rest is up to them. The door opened. A bailiff appeared. Verdict's in. They filed back into the courtroom. Eli kept Grace close, one hand on her shoulder. The foreman stood. An older man, weathered face, honest eyes. Have you reached a verdict? We have, Your Honor. On the charge of first-degree murder, how do you find... The foreman looked at Holloway, then at Grace. Guilty. Grace's knees buckled. Eli caught her, held her up. On the charges of fraud, conspiracy, and intimidation. Guilty on all counts. The courtroom exploded. People cheering, crying, embracing. Webb slumped in his chair. Holloway sat perfectly still, his face white as chalk. The judge banged his gavel. Victor Holloway, you have been found guilty of murder and multiple felonies. You are hereby sentenced to death by hanging to be carried out at dawn on the 1st of February. Holloway finally moved. He stood, chains rattling, and faced the crowd. This isn't justice, he spat. This is a farce. I built this territory. I gave people jobs, land opportunities. And this is how you repay me. You gave people graves, Eli said, standing. You gave children nightmares. You gave widows empty beds. That's your legacy, Holloway. That's what you built. You think this is over? Holloway laughed, a terrible hollow sound. You think killing me changes anything? There are 100 men like me waiting to take my place. 1,000. You haven't won anything. Maybe not. Eli put his arm around Grace. But we stopped you. And we'll stop the next one. And the one after that. Because that's what good people do. They stand. Holloway's eyes found Grace, fixed on her with pure hatred. I'll see you in hell, little girl. Grace didn't flinch, didn't look away. No, you won't, she said quietly. Because I'm not going there. But you are. The guards dragged Holloway away. His curses echoed through the courthouse until the doors slammed shut. And then it was quiet. Grace looked up at Eli. Her eyes were wet, but she was smiling. We did it. You did it. Eli kissed the top of her head. You were incredible. Sam grabbed them both in a fierce hug. We're free. We're finally free. Marcus approached, slowly, hesitant. I should go. Turn myself in. Face what's coming. Grace broke away from Eli, walked to Marcus. You already did, she said. You turned yourself in when you came to warn us. You faced what was coming when you took that bullet. She took his hand. You're not a monster anymore. You're our friend. Marcus's eyes overflowed. I don't deserve... Nobody deserves Grace. She smiled at the wordplay. That's why it's Grace. For the first time since Eli had known him, Marcus Cole wept openly. Great heaving sobs that shook his entire body. Grace held his hand through all of it. And in that moment, watching a broken man begin to heal, Eli understood something he'd forgotten. Redemption wasn't about deserving. It was about choosing. Every day. Every moment. Choosing to be better than you were. He'd made that choice when he opened his door to two frightened children. They'd made that choice when they trusted a stranger. Marcus had made that choice when he stepped between a bullet and a little girl. And now, standing in a courtroom full of people who'd chosen to believe in justice, Eli knew the truth. The darkness was real. The evil was real. The fear and the pain and the loss all real. But so was the light. So was the love. So was the hope that refused to die. And that was worth standing for. That was worth everything. They hanged Victor Holloway on a cold February morning. Eli didn't watch. Neither did Grace or Sam. They stayed at the boarding house waiting for it to be over. But Marcus went. He came back an hour later, pale and shaken. "It's done," he said. Grace looked up from her drawing. Did he say anything at the end? He cursed everyone. The judge, the jury, me. Marcus sat down heavily. Said he'd see us all in hell. "He won't," Grace said simply. "He's not that important." Marcus stared at her. Then he laughed a broken, surprised sound. "You know, I think you might be the wisest person I've ever met." "I'm 7. That's what makes it scary." Eli put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. "You okay?" "No." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "I worked for that man for 15 years. Did terrible things in his name. Told myself it was just business. Just survival." He shook his head. "Watching him hang, I thought I'd feel satisfied. Vindicated. Something." "What did you feel?" "Empty. And sad." Marcus looked at his hands. Sad for the man he could have been. The life he could have had. All that power, all that money, and in the end, he died alone and hated. That was his choice. I know. But it could have been me up there. If Grace hadn't looked at me with those eyes. If you hadn't given me a chance. His voice cracked. I could have been him. But you're not. Eli sat beside him. That's what matters. Not who you were. Who you are now. Marcus didn't answer. Just stared at the floor. Grace got up, walked over to him, put her small hand on his cheek. "You're a good man, Marcus Cole," she said. "You just forgot for a while." He broke then, tears streaming down his face. Grace held him, this massive broken man, and let him cry. Sam watched from across the room. "She does that a lot now, takes care of people." "She's got a gift," Eli said. "She's got you. That's what changed her." Eli shook his head. "She changed herself. I just gave her space to do it." They left Cheyenne 3 days later. The ride home was different than the ride out. Lighter somehow. Like a weight had been lifted from all of them. Grace sat between Eli and Sam, her rag doll in one hand, Reverend Finch's Bible in the other. She'd been reading it every night, slowly sounding out the words, asking Eli to explain the parts she didn't understand. Eli. "Yeah, darling. What's going to happen to all of Holloway's land, his cattle?" "The federal government's sorting it out. Some of it goes back to the families he stole from. The rest gets sold off. Money goes to his victims." "That's good." Grace was quiet for a moment. "What about his house?" "The big one." "Don't know. Why?" "I think it should be a school." She said it matter-of-factly. "He used it to hurt people. Now it should help them." Eli looked at her, 7 years old, and already thinking about making the world better. "I'll talk to Marshall Hartwell. See if that can happen." "Promise." "Promise." She smiled and went back to her Bible. Sam nudged Eli's arm. "She's going to change the world someday. She already has." Coldwater welcomed them home like heroes. The whole town turned out. Caleb and the Millers, Reverend Finch, Doc Harrison, Abigail with tears in her eyes. "You did it," Abigail said, hugging Grace tight. "You really did it." "We all did it." Grace hugged her back. "Together." Caleb shook Eli's hand. "Heard the testimony. That little girl stood up to Holloway's lawyer like she was 10 feet tall." She was. Eli watched Grace being passed from hug to hug. "Bravest thing I ever saw." "What now?" "Now we rebuild. Make a life. Be a family." Caleb smiled. "Sounds like a good plan." The cabin looked different when they got back. Someone had been there while they were gone. The bullet holes were patched, the broken windows replaced, fresh firewood stacked by the door. "Who did this?" Sam asked. "We did." Jacob Miller appeared around the corner, his brother Thomas behind him. "Whole town pitched in. Figured you deserved to come home to something good." Eli's throat tightened. "I don't know what to say." "Don't say nothing. Just live here. Raise those kids. Be happy." Jacob grinned. "That's payment enough." Grace ran to the cabin, pushed open the door. Eli heard her gasp. He followed her inside. And stopped. The drawings. All of her drawings, the ones she'd made during the siege, the ones from the boarding house, every single one had been framed, hung on every wall, turning the cabin into a gallery of a little girl's hope. Grace stood in the center of the room, tears streaming down her face. "They kept them," she whispered. "They kept all of them." Abigail appeared in the doorway. "You gave this town something, Grace, something we'd forgotten we had, hope. The least we could do was give it back to you." Grace ran to her, buried her face in Abigail's apron. "Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome home, sweetheart. Welcome home." That night they ate dinner together, all of them. Eli, Grace, Sam, Marcus, Abigail, Caleb, the Millers, Reverend Finch, Doc Harrison, crowded around a table that wasn't big enough, eating food that wasn't fancy enough, and none of it mattered. Because they were family now. All of them. "I want to make a toast," Sam said, standing up. He was 15 now, his voice deeper, his shoulders broader. The boy who'd stumbled into Eli's cabin with a bullet wound was becoming a man. Everyone quieted. "To Eli Rawlings." Sam raised his cup. "Who could have turned us away, could have hidden us, could have saved himself a whole lot of trouble." His voice wavered. "But he didn't. He stood for us when nobody else would. He gave us a home when we had nothing. He gave us—" He stopped, swallowed hard. "He gave us a father." The room was silent. Eli couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Grace took his hand. "It's true. You're our papa now. If you want to be." "If I want—" Eli's voice broke. "There's nothing in this world I want more." Grace climbed into his lap. Sam came around the table, put his hand on Eli's shoulder. "Then that's what you are," Sam said. "Papa." Eli pulled them both close, held them like he'd never let go. "My children," he whispered. "My beautiful children." Abigail was crying. Caleb was pretending not to. Even Marcus had to look away. Reverend Finch stood. "I believe this calls for something official. Don't you—" "What do you mean?" Finch pulled a folded paper from his pocket. "I took the liberty of preparing adoption documents. Judge Morrison signed off before we left Cheyenne. All it needs is your signatures." Eli stared at the paper. His hands were shaking. "You did this? You stood for those children. You fought for them. You nearly died for them." Finch smiled. "The least I could do was handle the paperwork." Eli took the pen. His vision was blurred with tears, but he signed his name. Clear and strong. Samuel Thomas Caldwell, Grace Elizabeth Caldwell. Now Samuel Thomas Rawlings, Grace Elizabeth Rawlings. "It's official," Finch said. "Before God and man, you're a family." Grace looked at the paper, at her new name. Rawlings, she said softly. Grace Rawlings. I like it. I like it too, darling. Eli kissed her forehead. I like it too. The weeks that followed were filled with change. The cabin expanded. Caleb and the Millers helped build an addition separate rooms for Sam and Grace, a proper kitchen, a porch where they could sit and watch the sunset. Marcus stayed. He worked the ranch alongside Eli, earning his keep through honest labor. The haunted look in his eyes faded a little more each day. Grace started school. The one-room schoolhouse in Coldwater had 12 students, and Grace was the youngest. But she wasn't the quietest, not anymore. She asked more questions today than the rest of the class combined, the teacher told Eli. Where does she get that curiosity? I think she's making up for lost time. Sam apprenticed with Caleb at the forge. He came home every evening covered in soot and grinning ear to ear. I made a horseshoe today, he announced one night. A real one. Caleb said it was good enough to use. That's wonderful, son. Son. Sam smiled. I still can't believe I get to call you Papa. I still can't believe you want to. Why wouldn't I? You're the best man I've ever known. Eli didn't have words for that, just pulled Sam into a hug and held on. Spring came slowly then, all at once. The snow melted. The ground thawed. Wildflowers pushed through the earth, the same kind that grew near Emma and Sarah's grave. Eli found Grace there one morning, kneeling by the wooden crosses, placing flowers she'd picked herself. Good morning, Mrs. Rawlings, Grace said softly. Good morning, Sarah. I brought you flowers. The purple ones are my favorite, but I thought you might like the yellow ones too. Eli's throat closed. He didn't want to interrupt, but Grace had heard him approach. I talk to them sometimes, she said. Is that okay? That's more than okay. I tell them about me and Sam, about you, about everything that happened. Grace looked at the graves. I think they'd like me. Sarah and me were almost the same age. Eli knelt beside her. She would have loved you. Really? Really. Sarah was curious like you, brave like you. She would have followed you everywhere. Grace smiled. I wish I could have met her. Me too, darling. Me too. They sat together in the quiet morning. Two people who'd lost everything building something new from the ashes. Eli. Yeah. I had a dream last night. About Sarah. She was standing right here watching us. And she was smiling. What do you think that means? I think it means she's happy. That you're not alone anymore. That you have us. Grace took his hand. I think it means she knows we're taking care of you. Eli couldn't speak, could barely breathe. You saved us, Grace continued. But maybe we saved you too. Maybe that's how it works, people saving each other. That's exactly how it works. Grace leaned against his shoulder. I love you, Papa. I love you too, sweetheart. More than words can say. Summer brought warmth and growth, and something Eli hadn't expected. A letter from the territorial governor. He read it 3 times before he believed it. What is it? Sam asked. Holloway's estate. They've decided what to do with it. Eli looked up. Grace's idea. They're turning the main house into a school. A real school. For children across 3 counties. Grace dropped her spoon. Really? Really. And they want to name it something special. Eli's voice wavered. They want to call it the Caldwell Memorial School, after your father. Grace's eyes filled with tears. Papa's name on a school? His name, his legacy, his children's idea. Eli pulled her close. He'd be so proud of you, Grace. So incredibly proud. I wish he could see it. He can. Eli touched her chest over her heart. He's right here. He's always been right here. Sam joined them. The three of them held each other while the summer sun poured through the windows. "We did it," Sam whispered. "We really did it." "We did it together," Eli said. "That's the only way anything gets done." Marcus knocked on the door, hesitant. "Sorry to interrupt, but there's someone here." "Who?" Marcus stepped aside. Behind him stood a woman, 60 years old maybe, gray hair, tired eyes, wearing clothes that had seen better days. "Mr. Rawlings." Her voice was thin, afraid. "That's me." "My name is Margaret Holloway." She saw Eli's face harden. "Please, I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm Victor's sister. I haven't spoken to him in 20 years. "Then why are you here?" "Because I heard what happened, what he did, what those children went through." Her eyes found Grace. "And I wanted to say, I'm sorry for what my brother became, for the pain he caused, for all of it." Grace stepped forward, everyone tensed. "Why are you sorry you didn't do anything?" "No, but I didn't stop him either. I knew what he was. I knew it for years. And I stayed quiet because it was easier, because I was afraid." Margaret's voice cracked. "That's not an excuse. I know it's not. But I wanted you to know that not all Holloways are monsters. Some of us are just cowards." Grace studied her for a long moment. This woman who shared blood with the man who killed her father. "My papa used to say that cowards can become brave," Grace said finally. "It just takes practice." Margaret blinked. "What? You came here to apologize, to face us. That's brave." Grace took a step closer. "That's a start?" Margaret's tears fell. "You're the little girl who testified, the one who wouldn't back down. I'm Grace Rawlings now." "Grace." Margaret smiled through her tears. "It suits you." She didn't stay long, just long enough to apologize, to offer what help she could to prove that redemption wasn't limited to the young. After she left, Marcus sat down heavily. "That took courage," he said, "coming here." "It did," Eli agreed. "Think she meant it." "I think people can change." Eli looked at Marcus. "I've seen proof of that." Marcus didn't answer, but something in his face softened. Fall came, and with it a different kind of harvest. The Caldwell Memorial School opened its doors. Grace was the first student to walk through them. Sam helped build the benches. Eli donated Emma's old books. The governor came for the dedication, made a speech about justice and hope and the resilience of the human spirit. But the moment everyone remembered was when Grace stood up to speak. 7 years old, facing a crowd of 100 people, politicians, ranchers, farmers, families. She didn't use notes, didn't need them. "My papa was a farmer," she began. "He worked hard every day. He taught me that land isn't just dirt and rocks, it's hope, it's future. It's what you leave behind for your children." The crowd was silent, watching. "A bad man took my papa away. He thought killing him would end everything, but he was wrong." Grace's voice grew stronger. "My papa's hope didn't die. It lives in me, in my brother, in every child who walks through these doors." She looked at Eli, at Sam, at Marcus standing in the back like he didn't belong even though he did. "A wise man told me that standing for what's right doesn't mean dying for what's wrong. It means living. It means building. It means making something good out of something terrible." She smiled. "That's what this school is, something good, something my papa would be proud of." She paused. "My name is Grace Rawlings. My father was William Caldwell, and this school is his gift to all of you. Don't waste it." She stepped down to thunderous applause. Eli caught her, lifted her into his arms. "You were amazing," he whispered. "I just told the truth." "That's the most amazing thing of all." Winter came again. A year since 2 desperate children had knocked on a stranger's door. Eli stood on his porch watching the snow fall. The cabin was warm behind him, Grace was reading by the fire. Sam was carving a wooden horse for her Christmas present. Marcus was chopping wood. A family. Imperfect and broken and beautiful. Abigail appeared on the road, trudging through the snow with a basket. "Brought you some Christmas bread," she called. "Come inside. Coffee's hot." She joined them by the fire. Grace showed her the book she was reading. Sam hid his carving. Marcus excused himself awkwardly, still not comfortable with visitors. "How are you doing?" Abigail asked Eli quietly. "Good. Better than good." "I'm glad." She squeezed his hand. "Emma would be proud. You know that, right?" "I hope so." "I know so." Abigail looked at Grace, at Sam, at the drawings on the walls. "Look at what you've built. Look at what you've become." She'd be so proud she'd burst. Eli's eyes burned. "I still miss her, every day." "Of course you do. That's what love is." Abigail smiled. "But missing someone doesn't mean you can't live. Doesn't mean you can't love again." "I figured that out." Eli watched Grace turn a page, her lips moving as she read. "Took me 4 years, but I figured it out." Christmas morning, Grace woke everyone at dawn. "Presents!" she shouted, bouncing on Eli's bed. "Papa, wake up, it's Christmas!" "I'm awake, I'm awake!" He caught her, tickled her until she squealed. "Merry Christmas, darling." "Merry Christmas, Papa." They gathered around the small tree Sam had cut. Nothing fancy, just a pine from the ridge decorated with ribbons and paper stars Grace had made. Sam gave Grace the wooden horse. She burst into tears. "It's perfect," she whispered. "It looks just like Papa's horse. My first Papa, I mean." "I know." Sam hugged her. "I wanted you to have something to remember him by." Grace gave Sam a scarf she'd knitted herself. It was lopsided and full of dropped stitches, but he wore it immediately and refused to take it off. Marcus received new work gloves from Eli. His hands shook as he opened them. "You didn't have to. Your family," Eli said simply. "Family gives gifts." Marcus didn't speak, just nodded, blinking hard, and then Grace handed Eli a small package. "This is from me and Sam," she said. "We made it together." Eli unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a picture frame, hand-carved by Sam, painted by Grace, and inside the frame was a drawing. 4 figures standing in front of a cabin, a tall man, a teenage boy, a little girl, and behind them 2 more figures fainter like shadows or memories. "That's Mama and Sarah," Grace explained, pointing to the shadows. "They're watching over us. They're part of our family too, even if they're not here." Eli couldn't speak, couldn't see through his tears. "Do you like it?" Grace asked suddenly, uncertain. He grabbed her, grabbed Sam, held them both as tight as he could. "It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen," he managed. "Thank you, both of you. Thank you." They stayed like that for a long time. 3 people who'd found each other in the darkest moment. 3 people who'd built a family from nothing but courage and love. Marcus watched from the doorway. After a moment, Grace broke away and grabbed his hand. "Come on," she said. "You're part of this too." She pulled him into the embrace. Marcus stood stiff at first, unsure. Then slowly his arms came up, wrapped around all of them. 4 broken people, 1 whole family. That afternoon they visited the graves, Emma and Sarah, William and Mary Caldwell, whose bodies had been brought back from Wyoming and buried beside them. Grace put flowers on all 4 graves. Sam said a prayer he'd learned from Reverend Finch. Marcus stood with his head bowed. Eli spoke last. "A year ago, I was dead. Living and breathing, but dead. I thought my life was over. I thought there was nothing left." He looked at his children, at the man who'd become his friend. "I was wrong. There was you. There was hope. There was love I didn't know I had left to give." He touched Emma's headstone. "You always said I was stubborn, Em. Guess you were right. I was too stubborn to die." He smiled through his tears. I miss you every day, both of you. But I'm not just surviving anymore. I'm living. I'm loving. I'm being the man you always wanted me to be. He kissed his fingers, pressed them to the stone. Thank you for showing me how. Grace took his hand. She hears you, Papa. I know she does. I know she does too. They walked home through the snow. 4 figures against the white leaving tracks that would fill in by morning. But the tracks didn't matter. What mattered was that they walked together. What mattered was that they were home. Spring came again, as it always does. The wildflowers bloomed. The creek ran high with snowmelt. The cabin that had once been a tomb was now bursting with life. Grace turned 8. They threw her a party the whole town came. She blew out her candles and wished for something she wouldn't tell anyone. What did you wish for? Sam asked. Can't say. It won't come true. Did it already come true? Is that why you won't say? Grace smiled. That secret smile she'd developed, the one that made her look older than her years. Maybe. Eli watched from the porch, coffee in hand. Marcus stood beside him. She's something else, Marcus said. She's a miracle. You all are. Marcus was quiet for a moment. I never thanked you properly. For giving me a chance. For letting me stay. Nothing to thank me for. There's everything to thank you for. Marcus turned to face him. A year ago, I was a monster. A killer. I'd forgotten what it meant to be human. Then I saw that little girl and something broke open in me. He shook his head. You could have killed me. Should have, probably. Instead, you gave me a home. You earned it. Did I? You took a bullet for Grace. You testified against Holloway. You work harder than any man I've ever known. Eli put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. You earned your place here. Don't ever doubt that. Marcus nodded slowly. His eyes were wet, but he didn't look away. I'm gonna make you proud, he said. I swear it. You already have. The party wound down. The guests went home. The children fell asleep by the fire, exhausted and happy. Eli carried Grace to her bed, tucked the blankets around her, kissed her forehead. Good night, sweetheart. Good night, Papa. Her eyes were already closing. I love you. I love you too, more than words can say. He did the same for Sam, who was almost too big to be tucked in, but didn't complain. Night, Papa. Night, son. Eli stood in the doorway, looking at his children, his family, his reason for living. A year ago, he'd been ready to die, had welcomed it even. The grief had been too heavy, the emptiness too vast. Then, 2 desperate children had knocked on his door, and everything changed. He walked outside. The night was clear, the stars bright enough to hurt. He found his usual spot on the porch, settled into his chair. Marcus came out a moment later, 2 cups of coffee in hand. Can't sleep either. Never could. Eli took the coffee. Old habit. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars wheel overhead. Eli. Yeah. You think we deserved this a second chance? A family? All of it? Eli thought about Emma, about Sarah, about the 4 years of darkness and the light that had broken through. I think we don't deserve anything, he said finally. I think life gives us what it gives, and we do our best with it. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes it isn't. But we keep going anyway. That's not very comforting. No. Eli smiled. But it's true. And I'd rather have truth than comfort. Marcus nodded slowly. Fair enough. They finished their coffee in silence. The night wrapped around them cold, but not cruel. I should sleep, Marcus said finally. Big day tomorrow. Why's that? Grace wants me to teach her to ride. Said I owed her for saving my life. He shook his head, smiling. That kid's got me wrapped around her finger. Welcome to the club. Marcus laughed. A real laugh, full and warm. The first one Eli had ever heard from him. Good night, Eli. Good night, Marcus. Alone on the porch, Eli looked up at the stars, at the vast, impossible expanse of creation. I did it, Em, he whispered. I don't know how, but I did it. Found a reason to live again. Found love again. Found family. The wind stirred soft and gentle, like a caress. I'll see you again someday. You and Sarah both. But not yet. Not for a long time yet. He smiled through his tears. I've got children to raise, a life to live, and I'm not wasting a single moment of it. He went inside, checked on Grace one more time, adjusted Sam's blanket, made sure the fire was banked and the doors were locked. Then Elijah Rawlings, who'd been dead for 4 years and alive for 1, went to bed, and slept without nightmares for the first time in years. Because he'd learned the truth that Grace had known all along, that standing for what's right isn't about dying. It's about living. It's about loving. It's about building something good from the ashes of something terrible. He'd stood when it mattered. He'd loved when it hurt. He'd opened his door to 2 frightened children and found salvation he never expected. And now, in a cabin full of drawings and laughter and love, surrounded by a family he'd chosen and who'd chosen him, Eli understood what he'd been searching for all along. Not redemption, not forgiveness, not even healing. Just this. Just home. Just family. And that was worth everything. That was the whole world.